Hiya crafters, Amy here, and today I have a technique to share with you. I'm going to stamp with my stencils. So I'm showing you some of the products that I'm using. I recently acquired these Electropop neon inks and they're bright and fabulous. So I'm just showing you real quick. I'm just going through and swatching them just so I know, how they look in true form. You'll see here on this blue one, I didn't fully clean off the green, so it made it more teal than it actually is. So I did go ahead and stamp it again in blue. This will just take a moment. I'm just going to swatch all these so you can see all the gorgeous colors, and then I'll move on to the other products that I'm using today. So like I said, these aren't new, but they're new to me. I just recently added them to my crafty stash, and I'm excited because they're fun. They're fun to blend and fun to play with. So if you're in the market for some punchy in the face ink, then this might be the one for you. But I'm almost done swatching here. I'm just going to write down the names so I have my little swatch card for future reference. And then also I'm going to be using these Simon Hurley stamping foams. Again, not new, but new to me. I recently acquired them. They're about $6 and you get 4 in a pack. First thing I had to do was feel them. I wasn't sure if they're going to be rough or soft to the touch. They're actually pretty smooth and velvety feeling, so that was a little surprising. I wasn't sure what to expect. But I'm using a myriad of stencils here. These are all from A Colorful Life Designs, and I am on the design team and I have a coupon code. So if you shop for some stencils, then definitely use my coupon code and you'll save on your complete order. So the way that these stamping foams work is basically you heat them up either with a heat tool like I'm using here, or some of the lower temp heat tools, but then you basically press the foam into whatever design you want to stamp with. So as you could see, that first try didn't work. I thought stamping on that little piece of foam would kind of actually help, but I think it actually needed a hard surface underneath. So I'm coming at it again. You can just warm it up and then the design that you imprinted on it will disappear, so you can keep reusing these. Now I stamp it again, and this is directly on my glass workstation, and it did a better job, but kind of uneven, and that's because I was pushing it in different spots, probably at different pressures. So I'm just going to cook it up again. At first I was using the level 1, the cooler heat, but I actually ended up going to the hotter of the two because I learned that it wasn't going to melt the foam or cause any issues. So I'm just kind of heating that back down and then pushing it, and then I use my little Simple Strips box to kind of apply even pressure on this foam block, and that did the trick. So third time's a charm, right? So got this nice beautiful impression of this. This is called the Bloom Mandala stencil, and I'm just using 3 of the Electropop inks just to kind of brush the ink right over. And when I've seen these used before, they typically spritz it with some water just to kind of make sure that the ink is activated and ready to transfer onto the paper. But you'll see I'm just swiping it across, and I did get some contamination on my ink pad, so this method may not be the best for you. Stick around and I'll show you another option to do this. But on this first one I did decide to spritz it with water and see how it did, and use that even pressure again. And it even shifted, and I don't think it messed it up at all. So it was nice, beautiful dark color. And here again, it might still be a little tiny bit wet from before, but overall I think it's pretty much dry. So I'm just going to lay down the same colors again, and I'm going to try it this time without spritzing it with water to see how it stamps. If I waited a long time to flip it over and stamp it, I don't know that I would get this result, but I was a little bit surprised at how well it actually stamped. So if you compare the two, there's not much of a difference. So depending on how wet your ink is, you may or may not need that little spritz of water. So here I'm just using the water in my stamp chamois, and I'm just trying to see what I can wipe off. Now I figured with the way that these inks react with stamps, I figured it was gonna dye my little foam pad, and honestly I don't mind. For one, I have 4 of them and they have 2 different sides, and I don't think it's really going to affect the outcome. So I was trying to just clean it off as best as I could. I had a little stamp cleaner here that I was trying as well, and quite a bit of it did come off. And then I noticed when I melted it down again with the heat tool, then it kind of got rid of the grooves, and I was able to get even more of the ink off of it. So that's what I'm doing here, is just kind of melting it back down. I shouldn't say melting it, it doesn't really melt it, it just kind of allows it to go back to the smooth shape. So here I'm just stamping to see if there was any ink that came off, and I think there was a little bit of water, but no ink really transferred off even though it was dyed. So I wanted to test that out. Now I'm going to warm it up again. I have the Maze Mandala stencil from Colorful Life Designs, and I'm doing this imprint, and I realized there was a hair in there, so it picked up that in the design, and I didn't want it, so I'm doing it again, just reusing it over and over again. That's something that's really cool about this. You can kind of push it into whatever, you know, object you want and use it as many times as you want, and then melt it down and, you know, move on to the next thing. So again, I'm doing the same thing, swiping and somewhat contaminating my ink pads. So not really ideal, but it wasn't a huge issue. I was able to wipe most of it off with either paper or like a little bit of paper towel. So I'm going to stamp this one down without any water. And it was nice rich color. So that could just be because my ink pads are pretty juicy, but overall it worked pretty well. And then here I wanted to spritz it with water and see if this ink would come off and do like a monoprint kind of thing. And as you can see here, not a whole lot comes off. So I think the majority of it really comes off in that first press, whether you spritz it with water or not. I feel like a lot of times it just kind of, once it dries in there, it's not going to come off much. Now I just use this fluorescent yellow because I wanted to see if any of the extra kind of ink that was left on it would come off, and it kind of did. It almost reminded me a little bit, you can see on the edge here, a little bit of like a jelly press. So I don't know if there was maybe some ink around the edges or something, but that did kind of transfer over. So if you don't mind that, gives you a bit of a grungy look, but I cleaned it off really good, melted it down again, and you can see there's some staining, but overall it cleaned up pretty good. I think I actually took it to my sink too and did some soap. So most of the ink came off, and again, I don't see any of that transferring on future projects. So you may stain it, but I don't think it's going to affect its usability, so to speak. So here I have the skeleton leaf stencil, also from a Colorful Life Designs, and same thing, just pressing it down. And this was a gorgeous impression right off the bat, so getting the hang of it, guys. Now here's another option. If you don't want to contaminate your ink pads, I don't know that this is going to be exactly as rich and dark as if you were swiping the ink pad directly across it, but this is a nice alternative if you want a little bit of a softer look and you're worried about cross-contaminating your ink pads by swooshing them across the foam like that. So I'm just doing the Poppin' Pink, Raging Red, and Potent Purple, and just kind of using these little blending foams to apply it to the foam instead of swiping the pad across it. And I spritz it with some water and stamp it down. And this isn't my favorite color combination, so I'm going to press it down, take a little look-see, realize I don't like it, and decide I want to try something else. So there's just not enough contrast. I mean, it's okay. Meh. Can't win them all, right? So I'm just going to wipe it off again with my stamp chamois, and then this time I decided to come in with some blue. So I thought, I'll try the Raging Red and the blue, because I knew where it overlapped it would kind of create somewhat of a purple. So again, I'm going to do the same thing and use the foam blending tools just to kind of apply the ink this way as to not contaminate the ink pads, and lay that down. And it's kind of hard to gauge how much ink is on there when it is stained up a little bit, so there is that, but it's not a pure white foam anyway, so you can't, I guess, truly tell until you stamp it how much saturation you're going to have in the color. So this one I spritz down with some water. And guys, I'm trying to line them up straight on these A2 size panels, but I know I'm likely going to cut them down because, for one, trying to line it up, you know, while filming is a bear, and it's just kind of difficult anyway. But if you're good at that and that's your jam, then you could have this gorgeous border just kind of built in around that and use those panels as is. But I know that I'm going to do something else. So here I'm just going to show you the panels that I made a minute, and then stick around and I'm just going to show you a couple other products that I used, and I'll show you some finished cards that I made here at the end. So I got lots of panels here. I had fun playing and figuring out how this worked. And then I did a little ink blended panel because I wasn't sure if I was going to die cut, you know, a sentiment out of that or something. And I I felt like it, so I ink blended that little panel. So here I'm showing you I cleaned it up as good as I could. So it still got some stain, still got kind of a pretty design from one of the stencils, but again, I don't care. $6 for 4 of them, and that's just one side. Meh, it's fine. So here I used this little stitched rectangle die and cut those panels out. It was like the perfect size. And this is the Big On You stamp set. I have the stamp and coordinating die, and these are the products that I used to kind of finish the cards here. And here they are. I have thank you, can't say it enough. So you'll see I use some adhesive backed foam with the die cut for that thank you, just to give it nice even dimension and kind of pop it off the card, but everything else is kind of adhered directly to the card base. And that is A2 size 110-pound cardstock. And I will link all the products that I used in the video description box below. So if you follow those links, I might make a small commission at no additional cost to you, and I appreciate it because it does help support my channel. But let me know in the comments which one is your favorite. I think I might like that love you one, just because it's kind of snarky, like love you, obviously. Just kind of funny. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed these cards today and this technique. I'm always looking for new fun ways to use my beloved stencils. So if you enjoyed it, please hit the thumbs up and consider subscribing, and I'll check you next time. Bye.